Coming up, the wild win streak is over while the Bruins stay dominant at home. This is Locked On Game to Game NHL.
Every game, every team, every angle. Locked On Game to Game, your team every day.
Welcome in. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game NHL, local experts going over the biggest stories on the ice. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. The Toronto Maple Leafs built a 3-goal lead before surviving 2 late goals by the Philadelphia Flyers in their annual holiday meetup at Scotiabank Arena, this time on Thursday. The hosts from both Locked On Maple Leafs and Flyers go over the big lead Toronto almost let go to waste.
This was a game of missed opportunities for the Flyers as the Leafs hold on after pretty much dominating most of the game. Hi, this is Rachel Donner from the Locked On Flyers podcast with your quick reaction to the Flyers 4-3 loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Flyers were outchanced 37-24. They were down 18-7 in high danger chances in this one. And that was most of the story here. Like we talked about on the show, that 5-forward power play that the Leafs have and their top couple of lines were absolutely monster for the Leafs. The last 8 minutes or so, when the lines were switched up for the Flyers, we almost saw a different team out there. The Flyers had goals from Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee to get it within 1. Plus, they saved a bunch of empty net attempts by the Leafs, but that missed chance on the 5-on-3 power play and up a man at the very end, they just needed a little bit more to get back into this one. For more on this game and the Flyers all season long, tune into the Locked On Flyers podcast.
The Boston Bruins improved their home record to 18-0-2 with the victory over the Winnipeg Jets at TD Garden. Locked On Bruins has more as Boston shows no signs of slowing down in its early season hot streak.
The 2022-23 Bruins just hit different, folks. This is Ian McLaren, host of Locked On Boston Bruins, and down 2-0 to a pretty good team in the Winnipeg Jets here on Thursday night. The Bruins rallied and took it by a score of 3-2, improving their overall record to 26-4-2 and remaining undefeated in regulation on home ice, going 18-0-2. Yes, they got a pretty fortuitous bounce off the end boards and glass, actually, to lead to the first goal of the night, scored by David Pastrnak. Jake DeBrusk scored to tie the game, and it was big Nick Foligno who scored the game winner in the third period, with Jeremy Swayman putting in another strong start for the win. Catch all the latest on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.
The New York Rangers scored the go-ahead goal with less than 3 minutes to go against the Islanders yesterday, the second goal of a 3-0 advantage in the third. Locked On Islanders says the sloppy play led to the loss against their in-state rival.
Sloppy and careless play by the New York Islanders cost them in a 5-3 loss to the Rangers. Gil Martin of Locked On Islanders here. The Islanders taking so many bad penalties, gave the New York Rangers 6 power play chances and end up falling in this game 5-3. The Rangers cashed in officially on 1, but the game-winning goal came just a handful of seconds after a power play officially expired. And really, by giving a talented team like the Rangers, players like Kreider and Zibanejad and Trocheck and Fox, all that extra time and space and all those minutes with an extra attacker, that is playing with fire, and eventually the Islanders got burned. Islanders had 1-0, 2-1, and 3-2 leads, but could not hold them because they couldn't get out of their own way, and it cost them in a game they really needed to win. For more, listen to and watch the Locked On Islanders podcast with me, Gil Martin, wherever you get your podcasts.
Marcus Johansson scored the game-winning goal 2 minutes into overtime to give the Washington Capitals the win over the Senators. Locked On Capitals recaps the win, while Washington fans are still waiting for Alex Ovechkin's 801st goal.
Washington Capitals take down the Ottawa Senators in overtime by a score of 3-2. Hi, this is Dan Homey of Locked On Capitals. Well, Marcus Johansson got the overtime game winner as he got a goal. The game also saw goals by Sonny Milano and Evgeny Kuznetsov. This was the first game back in some time for Darcy Kemper, and he gets the win as he makes 23 saves on 25 shots. The Capitals have won 8 of their last 9 games and have earned at least 1 point in 12 of their last 15, dating back to November 23rd. With a 3-2 win tonight, Washington improved to an 18-3-1 in their last 22 games against the Senators, dating back to the 2014-2015 season. Keep it locked to Locked On Capitals, and I will keep you updated on all the news with your Washington Capitals. Locked On Capitals, your team every day.
Coming up, the Kraken blow a big lead on the road. This is Locked On Game to Game NHL. It can happen very easily. A few drinks become a few too many. It's time to go, and you think of calling for a ride home. But no, what's the worst thing that could happen? You get pulled over, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. Drive sober or get pulled over. Welcome back to Locked On Game to Game NHL. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every weekday. Seattle Kraken blew a 2-goal lead to the Canucks and then lost the shootout in Vancouver. Locked On Kraken goes over a rough loss to take for Seattle.
Tough loss, Seattle hockey fans. 6-5 loss to the Vancouver Canucks. Come on. Come on. Oh, I didn't want to say this tonight. 6-5 loss in an overtime shootout. Martin Jones gets the start. We can't get anything for him in his homecoming. We couldn't hold on to a lead. We blew a lead late. And that just can't happen. We talked about it on Thursday's show. If we want to be a serious contender, not only do we have to beat teams like Vancouver, but we have to clean things up. We can't be giving away leads late, and we have to do a better job protecting our netminder. So yeah, that was some Kraken crap, if ever. We'll talk about it more on Friday's episode of Locked On Kraken.
The Kings gave up a third period lead as well, but they were able to make up for it themselves in overtime. Locked On Kings tells you how Los Angeles escaped with a win.
The Kings' winning streak continues. Hi, I'm Eddie Garcia with the Locked On LA Kings podcast. The Kings hosted the Calgary Flames looking for their 4th straight win. Calgary, though, would score first in this one on the first shot of the game for them, but the Kings would battle back, scoring on a Gabe Vilardi tip-in, and we were tied at 1-1. A scoreless second period in the third. Kings would strike quickly, 2 goals, 10 seconds apart, the first from Philip Deneau, the second from Blake Lizotte. However, the Flames would battle back, tied up at 3-3. This one would be decided in overtime. Adrian Kempe with the overtime game winner, and the Kings skate off with a hard-fought 4-3 victory. LA goalie Phoenix Copley allowed 3 goals on 30 shots to improve to 6-1 as a King, and he's won 4 straight starts for LA. Overall, the Kings are now 19-12-5 on the season, and they have tied their season-high winning streak at 4 in a row. We'll have a full recap of the win over the Flames on Friday's show. For more, check out Locked On LA Kings, wherever you get your podcasts, your team every day.
The Wild's win streak is over, and San Jose made it not even close with early and consistent offense. Locked On Wild goes over the loss for Minnesota.
If there's one bit of good news that can come from a game like this, let it be that the Wild never play with 11 forwards and 7 defensemen ever again. Hey everybody, Seth Topol, host of Locked On Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, recapping a 5-2 loss for the Minnesota Wild to the San Jose Sharks to snap their 6-game winning streak. The Wild played last night. They looked tired tonight. The Sharks scored within the first minute of the game, and it was all downhill from there. Marcus Foligno was injured in warm-ups, and so he was scratched from the lineup. The Wild went with 11 forwards and 7 defensemen. They then lost Mason Shaw during the game to a game misconduct penalty, and it was just a bit of a mess for the Wild in this one. They did get goals from Matt Zuccarello and Joel Eriksson-Ek, but they head into the break at 6-1. For more on the Minnesota Wild, make sure you're following Locked On Wild wherever you listen to your podcasts.
That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Game to Game NHL. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every weekday. Make sure you are subscribed to Locked On NHL and, of course, your favorite team's Locked On podcast on YouTube and wherever else you get your podcasts from. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On Game to Game.